And now I'm going to go ahead and take you through the SOP for one of the most time-intensive parts, actually watching the first layer of the 3D print go down. So, to first watch the first layer, I first need to go ahead and actually tell the 3D printer, hey, I want to go ahead and print something with you. Ensure that the correct color is loaded for whatever you want to print, and then go over to your menu, select in, go ahead and go to print from card, and then go on down to whatever you want. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and be printing out the 2025 Dining Out Gift Elk, and that's going to be 5 hours and 5 minutes. But the most important part right now is for me to go ahead and be somewhat close to the printer, because I need to go ahead and watch the first layer as it goes down to ensure that it's the proper height away from the build plate, because that first layer is the most critical. It is the foundation for the rest of the print to build upon. If that first layer isn't perfect, or pretty dang close to perfect, then it could cause some problems later on, such as delamination, which is whenever the print actually warps up enough from the very warm plastic being laid on top of it to meeting the cold plastic that's under it, that whenever the warm plastic shrinks, it actually causes the piece to warp up. So that can actually be seen. Okay. So that can be seen in a print like this one, where if I hold it on its side, you can see these antlers are quite warped up, and that's because we didn't get close enough to the build plate whenever those were laid down, which means that there's all those problems on there. So if I lay this down on the build plate, literally what I was looking at was that being that ripped off the build plate. It's pretty dang obvious whenever something is becoming delaminated, and whenever something is becoming delaminated, if it's in a stack like this, doesn't necessarily mean that everything is going to ruin itself. For instance, this boy right here was like the first one. The rest of them were still successful, but you just got to watch out for this coming unglued from the bottom of the build plate, because if this comes unglued and it starts moving around, then it's going to knock everything else off with it. You're going to have a really, really, really bad time. So this is almost completely heated up to the point where it needs to be. You can see that it's trying to get to 215, which is what the 0.4 millimeter nozzle is set to for both the first layer and for all other layers with it. That seems to be the best temperature that works for my machines at least, and it also seems to be what works for the Squadron machines as well. So that's first layer. I'm going to go ahead and go down here. I can see that as my extruder heats up, I have that little bit of plastic that's just hanging off the nozzle. If you're not comfortable using your hands to go ahead and pick that off, then you can always just go ahead and use a pair of tools that are close to you and ensure that it's not going to burn you. So the first layer is going down, and I can actually see the nozzle is getting so dang close to the build plate that it's pressing up against it. So as I look in here, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a squish between the nozzle and the build plate itself. So right now, my build plate seems to be doing pretty dang good. Nothing is coming up and off the build plate. This is an example of what it looks like whenever everything is working smoothly. So on my end, it literally looks like it's being squished down. But looks like we had a bit of a fail in the corner, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this and twist it up. You can actually see these are labeled. So clockwise is up. Oh my goodness, print, please. So I'm going to go and twist this up just a little bit. Should get more of a squish. Yeah. That seems to be working pretty dang good. So far, since I can see that I'm getting a pretty good squish, I am satisfied with the print so far. You can see that it's starting to come up on that side a little bit, and that's a little concerning. So I'm going to go ahead and push this side up as well as this side, just about with a turn or so. I'm probably just going to have to restart the print just because I don't like how much space these have right now. Once this nozzle clears out of the way. So I can see that just the tip of the antler back there is warped up. And I'm not exactly satisfied with the amount of press that I got on the fork. The real test, though, that I'm looking for is whenever this printer starts to do its infill. So, what I'm looking for on this infill is I'm trying to see if the print is becoming too transparent, whether it's making ridges, what exactly it's doing. So far, as it's going through, it looks like it's getting pretty dang close and getting a pretty good smush behind it. So, I'm enjoying that. Any other time that I would be looking at something like this, I would think that's a little too close because I can actually see the ridges that are happening over there. But in this particular instance, with something that's so prone to warping up because of all the small details, such as this 2025 dining out giveaway, I actually want it to be closer to the build plate because it's going to mean more success, better adherence to the build plate, less warping up. So I'm fine with seeing those ridges on it, to be completely honest. The thing that I'm really looking out for is I'm looking out for anything that has gaps in it. Gaps are incredibly terrifying for these little fragile 3D prints that I have. So what I'm talking about for gaps is if I have a piece like this where it started just like this whenever it was laying down its first pieces, I start to go over here and I can see, if my camera goes in, that I have gaps between where the filament is connecting to the perimeter and where it's supposed to be cinching itself down essentially to the side, like what you can see down here. There should be no gaps whatsoever. It should be stitching itself to the side. These gaps that are happening along aren't the worst thing in the world, but they aren't exactly desirable. However, these that I can see over here are far too many for me to be comfortable with. I would definitely move my build plate up closer to the nozzle to try to alleviate that, because what that's telling me is I'm not getting good adhesion. So all of these pieces that are separated and breaking out like this, that shows me that the bed is way too far away from the nozzle and I'm not getting good contact and adhesion. This would rip off the build plate in a heartbeat with any other layers being put on top of it. This print would not survive at all. And whenever it's flat against something, such as a piece of paper like the SLPs, I can actually see through it. And you would be able to see through this filament as well on the build plate whenever it begins to print. It should look uniform like this over here. Yeah, this is absolutely smooth. I can't feel a single ridge on it. So this over here is what you're looking for. Now, whenever a build is too close, it's going to go ahead and make ridges because the nozzle is literally so dang close and the filament is being pushed out the end and the nozzle has nowhere else to go, so it just plows through that filament and makes these ridges. So these ridges tell you that the nozzle is too close to the build plate, and especially like whenever we get further and further along, this is whenever I was really cranking into it and the nozzle was essentially just dragging against the build plate on this, which causes a very unique effect. The nozzle actually stretches the PLA so dang much that it will create these bubbles that are on the build plate. So, again, the thing that you're looking for is for it to be completely flat and level. No ridges, no bumps, no nothing. And you're looking for perfect adhesion. It should all just be one uniform layer. what that actually looks like on a build plate. I can move my light over here. Yeah. There we go. Is this. So, as this print continues to print, I can see that this side over here was a little too far away. The reason why it's too far away is because I can actually see that there are gaps on this side, and there are gaps all throughout this 3D print. If I was to lift this off the build plate right now, I don't know if those would actually stick together or not, but it doesn't have very good stitching. You can see through the rest of the print, it looks perfectly uniform. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that really solid stitching over here on the sides of the print, and I'm looking for the top to be nice and smooth. So far, this is successful. Now, the other thing that I'm looking for is, as it prints, I can adjust this while it's printing. I don't have to wait for it to stop and then adjust depending upon what's needed. So, on this print over here, for those antlers and such, everything looks to be okay. But if anything was to happen, I was like, oh man, this is too far away from the build plate, I need to go ahead and push this up a little bit. It's perfectly fine to adjust while it's going. For you, the main thing that you're going to see are these hexes over here. So if I was to see like ridges in this corner over here, then I would go ahead and say, okay, I need to go ahead and move this down actually. So then I would just go ahead and twist this down and live adjust it just a little bit. And then I would, go off for about 5 minutes, do something else, and then come back and see how that adjustment actually affected the 3D print. The exact same for if I was to see gaps and such, then I would go ahead and start moving it up. If I was to see gaps in like this corner, then I would move up only this knob down here. If I was to see gaps right here on the tip, then I would go ahead and do both of them, since both of them are going to affect this. If I only see imperfections over on this side, I'm only going to adjust this unless it carries all the way down through this middle section, in which case I need to adjust both knobs. You see how it works? Okay. So, depending upon which quadrant it's actually going to be affecting, you need to go ahead and readjust the bed to properly align with the height of the nozzle that you're doing. Okay. So, that's watching your first layer and getting a print started. I would recommend for in the beginning while you're 3D printing to go ahead and sit by the printer at least until the first layer gets completely done. You don't have to be by it the entire time, just as long as you're periodically watching it like once every 5 or 10 minutes or so, just to see if you need to readjust it. That's going to be enough. But you do need to be attentive to the first layer to make sure that everything is going to come out successful. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is Matthew Underwood. Thank you so much for listening.